and in attendance with us today. The time is 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We're going to go ahead and start our questionnaires and get into the nitty-gritty details of what we can do with our account or with NewView. And I'm here to answer all of your questions. So my name is Cora Matzek. I am the Business Development Manager with NewView Trust Company. So what my role is I'm actually out and about spreading the word of NewView at events, brokerages commonly, or just getting the actual message out, what you can do with your self-directed IRA and what that looks like investing in alternative assets with your self-directed IRA. So it's really inspiring to me to be able to see what people are doing with their IRA accounts and different strategies that each of our clients hold and learning their strategies. So today I'm here to answer all of your questions. So just a disclaimer, as always, before we go ahead and start, I like to separate this. So NewView, we are a passive custodian. So we hold your funds for you to be able to go ahead and invest in alternative assets. We do not provide tax advice, legal advice, or investment advice. So we also don't sell investments. We custody IRAs, ESAs, HSAs, and 401ks that hold alternative investments chosen by the client. So essentially, in a nutshell, if you have a legal question, a tax question, things of that nature, I would encourage you to reach out to your CPA, your real estate attorney, the people who know your financial situation the best are going to be those people and have that area of expertise. Those are going to be the people that will point you in the correct direction. If you have a question about NewView, that's where we come into play and how you go ahead and open your accounts and what those look like. So you've heard me mention self-directed IRA a few times already getting started. So what is the self-directed IRA? Self-directed IRA is actually just a marketing term. It's still an IRA. Just whatever custodian you are using, it's going to have that IRA capability. So it's really your IRA and what you can direct and invest in. The self-direction aspect of it is being able to choose with, I like to say, within whatever menu option your custodian allows you to do. Some custodians allow you to pick and choose from their menu of options, which might be stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Here at NewView, I like to say our menu is a little bit larger. You can invest in alternative assets. So this could be private lending, invest in properties. We do offer cryptocurrency, things of that nature as well too. So don't let the self-directed term intimidate you. It is still your IRA. So what are some of the benefits of self-direction? Well, diversification is going to be one of those benefits. So if you're familiar, let's say you are familiar with stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and you might want to start dabbling into the world of alternative investments, you don't necessarily have to have all of your funds in one area. You can keep to what you already know best and maybe start to dabble in and explore new options. I always suggest diversifying your assets. Tax savings. So growing your retirement account in a tax advantage way benefits you tremendously. We did a study a few weeks back on in one of our classes, actually in the private lending class. If you're online, you can look at that through our YouTube channel. In one of the slides in the private lending class, we have a chart where you can see, it's a comparison chart. If you have a business in a tax advantage way, if you're using a tax advantage account, let's say, versus not using a tax advantage way, and how much the taxes can rob you of truly having a really good retirement. So the best way to start investing is the tax advantage way. And also investing in what you know best. I mentioned earlier, if real estate is something that you know like the back of your hand, why not start to utilize your IRA to invest in what you already know? You know the markets, you know the area. You can start as small as private lending and go up to much larger deals like syndications, things like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a large investment right off the bat. You can start to dabble in it. I always say that. So how many ways can I save for retirement? Well, so many. So these are our types of plans that we have. And again, based on your unique financial situation, your CPA might suggest that you have a solo plan versus a traditional Roth. So we'll get into these here. So traditional was the original one that was rolled out. Traditional, if you're not familiar with what the traditional is you're taxed later. That's the best way I like to remember it. You pay taxes later at the time of when you're taking your required minimum distributions. That's where you start to see that tax come in. For Roth, you're paying the tax on your initial contribution. So if you're going to contribute that $6,500 annually, well, let's say you contribute that, you'll be taxed on that contribution for that year. But when it comes time to take it out, you're not taxed on that. You're taxed a little bit differently, not as much as you would see in the long run. However, again, according to your CPA, it's going to be based on the best unique financial strategy that your CPA suggests. We have some other plans as well too that you can utilize here at NewView. So solo, SEPs, and simple. So if you look at the contribution limit annually, with these plans, they're much, much higher. I would encourage you to go to newviewtrust.com where we have more in-depth information on these plans. We won't dive too deep into these plans. However, I will let you know although these plans do allow max contributions annually, there are some qualifications that you need to meet to be able to hold one of these plans. So for example, with a solo plan, you need to be able to be self-employed and have no W-2 employees, and then you would be able to qualify to adopt the solo aspect. And then we do have specialty plans, so education savings account and our health savings account plans we offer as well. These are often looked at as being able to grow alongside your retirement, but I would encourage you to really think of strategies. How can you grow these other accounts alongside your personal or traditional Roth plans, or maybe even your solo? Definitely another strategy. So a little bit more in depth on the Roth and traditional plans here. So as I mentioned, the biggest difference is going to be Roth is after tax contribution, and then you have your traditional tax deductible contributions. And these are the basic differences between the two. Feel free if you're at home, screenshot these. You'd be able to see what you would be able to utilize. Take this to your CPA and ask the questions, which one would be better for me in my unique situation? And our employer plans too. So differences between these with your simple is tax deductible contributions, and it's beware of the 2-year rule with this. Your solos, we mentioned a little bit with this one. So your max contribution, $66,000 or 25% of your annual income. You do also, if you do have the solo, you would be able to qualify for what is called checkbook control. And if you're not familiar with what checkbook control is, that's just a fancy way of saying you can open up a bank account at whatever banking institution you prefer, and you can have your IRA funds in that bank account. There's limitations, things of that nature that you'd be aware of. If you are interested, contact us. We can go over those options for you and what that might look like, but also reach out to your CPA too. Similar contributions with the SEP. It's worked for your business in at least 3 of the last 5 years. So tax deductible contributions, 25% of compensation. Your health savings account plan. So if you have if you have an insurance plan that allows you to have the health savings account, so a high deductible plan, you would then qualify for a health savings account. So the nice thing about this one is the contributions are tax deductible, distributions are tax and penalty free. So this year for single person, $3,850, and as a family, $7,700 are the max contributions that you can contribute annually. You do also have, if you're not familiar with the Coverdell Education Savings Account, $2,000 annual contribution limit. Anyone can be a depositor. Distributions are tax and penalty free. So the big difference between maybe some other university or college savings accounts that you might have heard of is the Coverdell Education Savings Account isn't necessarily solely for university or higher education. It's actually anything education related, which is something I wish I knew years ago. So if your child or is going to be studying at a private school and you're needing to pay tuition, if they need a computer for school, things of that nature, these would qualify for expenses that you can utilize and pull from that ESA account. So we call it the ESA account. So a little bit different, what if you have something to ponder? What if you have saved 18 years for college education and then your child comes and says, I don't want to go to university. What would you do with those funds? Does your current program allow you to move those funds to a different avenue if your child decides to not go to university? Something to ponder about. And if they don't, I would look into these ESA accounts because they are so versatile. It doesn't necessarily solely need to be for a university. So what are the options for note investing? So we have a promissory note. It's promise to pay back the lender. Some note examples are secured or unsecured. So we have had a client who lent money for an air conditioner unit, and she secured it with the property. So we always recommend looking into the differences between an unsecured note and a secured note, and always consider worst case scenario. So I would speak to your CPA, your real estate attorney, if you are going to be doing one of those larger loans, what does it look like if that person does not pay you back? What does that look like? So a secured note is backed by the value of the asset itself. If the borrower defaults, your IRA can acquire that asset and gives the lending party a safety net. So securing, for example, let's say you're going to be doing a private loan for, let's say, a property. Have you considered what happens in the event of if that borrower does not pay you back? What are your options? You need some type of security net to be able to ensure that all's not lost. So unsecured just means that it's opposite of the secured note. It's not backed by the asset. It's a higher risk and in turn a higher return. So again, really weigh out your options on secured versus unsecured. I don't hear of many of our clients doing unsecured notes, but that is, I think a lot of people have thought through the worst case scenario and done their due diligence. Just do your due diligence. What is a Roth conversion? This is a good question. We hear of this a lot. Roth conversions are moving from a pre-tax account to a Roth account. So you only pay on the initial tax for the conversion. So you are able to do this in a SEP plan, simple traditional IRAs, and 401ks. So benefits of having a Roth IRA are it's growing tax-free to build retirement. You've already paid the taxes on that initial contribution. So initial tax secured tax-free distributions. Conversions may affect your tax bracket, so always consult a licensed CPA, and make all conversions before tax deadline each calendar year. So if you're not familiar of taxable holidays, I like to call them, or financial events annually, I would you can look at the list online. You can also ask your CPA, mark those on your calendar. When are my year-end contributions due? Am I able to do this Roth conversion, or should I be doing this Roth conversion? These are things that you should consider, but also mark these dates on so you're spot on with what you're needing to do for your unique scenario. Do I qualify for a solo? Well, I always like to think of the solo plans as the Ferrari of all plans. If you could qualify for the solo plan, I would do it, especially if you're looking to be able to get those max contributions. So a couple of qualifications that I touched on earlier, we'll get a little bit more in depth with this. So in order for you to qualify for a solo plan, you must be self-employed and must not have any common law employees. And you must have self-employed earned income. Not to be confused with passive income, earned income. So one thing that I like to tell people or I like to ask people when they're considering opening up a solo is, what's your end game goal? Are you looking to be able to contribute annually your max contributions? Are you looking to be able to utilize that checkbook control feature? And it really depends on what you're wanting to do, but I'll say this. The solo plans is a plan adoption. You still have your traditional or Roth IRA, your individual retirement account. Think of the solo as that key for a door that takes you to your account to the next level. That's why it's called a plan adoption. So you still have your traditional or Roth, whichever one your CPA has suggested that you have or you have set up like that. If you meet these qualifying factors, you then can qualify to adopt a solo plan that gives you the key to be able to contribute more annually, checkbook control, things of that nature. You actually can even take out a personal loan from the solo up to $50,000 and pay yourself back, of course, with interest. But that's another option with the solo that a lot of people are interested with. Next question. How do you invest in precious metals with your IRA? So like gold, silver, things of that nature. So investing with NewView, precious metals. So your IRA is technically the owner of these assets. Make sure you're completing your due diligence. So you would set up your account. You would contact our team and fill out a purchase form. You'd submit it back to us. You need to include all of the details, the invoice from the dealer. And one thing to keep in mind is the metals are stored in an off-site facility. Do your due diligence on where these precious metals will be stored. Those are one things that we could, bring insight to. Where are your metals going to be held? If you have precious metals and they can be worth a lot of money, who's going to be storing these? What is their qualifications to be able to store my precious metals? What's any type of security measures that they might have? Those are some tips that we think you should consider. Do I need to have a checkbook control IRA? And remember, I mentioned checkbook control is just a fancy way of saying that you're going to open up a bank account and put your IRA funds into that bank account. So checkbook control is having a separate LLC and bank account for your IRA. It can be a useful tool depending on investments and puts more responsibility in the IRA owner's hands. So to sum it up, again, you mentioned, so you would have a separate LLC and a bank account for your IRA. It's direct access to your IRA funds. Sometimes we find that there's investment opportunities that are time urgent. There's urgency behind it, and you might not have that day to wait for NewView to distribute the funds to where you would like those to go. Having that checkbook option or that debit card option right at your hands and it's immediate is what some people prefer having. One thing to keep in mind though, you're responsible for your own record keeping at that point. If you're newer to this, that can sound intimidating. It's kind of one of those things where, do I want to mow my own grass or do I want someone to mow my grass for me? Can I mow my own grass? Yeah, I can, but this might be a larger lawn that I'm used to. So you don't immediately have to go in and start setting up checkbook control. This is if you want or need that immediate direct access. To transfer funds on a new view site, it's anywhere from 24 to 48 hours turnaround time. So not necessarily make or break there, but again, we understand sometimes these purchases are time sensitive. All right, what else do we have? So benefits of the checkbook control. So it's beneficial for active investors who may need more access, as I mentioned. It can be helpful to pursue more exotic crypto coins if it's not available on our platform, which I would check out our platform as well too. We've recently added some other options there. And it's a useful way to track investment progress without oversight. So some things to keep in mind. Do not mingle your personal funds within the checkbook control account. That is prohibited. You cannot make a payment to yourself as the account owner. Actions such as these are considered highly prohibited by the IRS. And the IRS prohibits very few things, but it's very black and white. You don't want to end up in that gray area. And what is a prohibited transaction? So you have people restrictions, transaction restrictions, and investment restrictions. And we'll get into that here. So what are the people restrictions? So if you're at home, feel free to screenshot this. This is going to be who you can and can't do business with in your IRA. So this is a great map for you to be able to, if you're unsure, you could reflect back on this and know you've made a good decision, or reach out to your CPA, get their thoughts. Transaction restrictions. So you can't buy, sell, trade, loan, or extend services direct or indirect to these people that were listed. Your investment restrictions, life insurance. Your IRA is meant to benefit you while you are alive, and also collectibles. So those are the two investment restrictions that are considered prohibited transaction. How do I invest in cryptocurrency using my New View IRA account? We hear this a lot, especially, with buzzwords, there's been a lot of talk of on social media, the news about cryptocurrency, things of that nature. So how do you do it? You can invest in cryptocurrency using our platform. You can trade Bitcoin and all of these different aspects here. We actually had a class on this a few weeks ago. You can find that again on our YouTube channel, where we go more in depth on our platform and what that looks like. As I mentioned, we've added a few additional ones. So please check that out too if this is something you're interested in. But also, this is great to shed light on the investments in alternative assets that you could be doing with your IRA account. So getting started, so you would open up your New View Trust account, of course. You would fund your account via contribution, or rollover, or transferring. So if you're contributing the funds, if you're actually self-funding it. Rolling over that means that you have an old 401k account from a previous employer, and you're looking to roll that into an IRA account, or a transfer form, an IRA account to an IRA account. You'd set up a trading profile. You'd submit a purchase authorization for New View to fund your account, and you'd be able to start trading cryptocurrency on the trading platform. So pretty straightforward. It's not as intimidating as it sounds. Other investment options. There is one other option for trading crypto within your IRA, investing with a checkbook control, giving you total responsibility. So you could still do that as well too with your checkbook control. This question we get a lot, can I take money out of my IRA account? So things to consider here. Is it a Roth or traditional? Remember, here are the differences between the two. So Roth is post-tax, traditional is pre-tax. In a Roth, after 59.5 distribution, are completely tax-free. Gains taken out early will face up to a 10% penalty and tax. So same thing with the traditional. So a lot of people are looking to invest in a tax advantage way. taking funds out early gets you a 10% penalty in tax. So if you're looking to invest in a tax advantage way, certainly pulling it out negates that. So SEPs and solo. So SEP IRA and simple IRAs are similar to traditional IRAs. Any money taken out early will face a 10% penalty in tax. Solo, tax implication will depend on the kind of money used. So it depends. Again, this is a really good question. If you have one of these accounts, this is a really good question for your CPA. What does this look like? What ends up happening? Things of that nature. So your HSA account, it's tax-free, tax deducted, and various qualified health expenses are tax-free. So something to consider there. If you're needed to take those funds out for any health-related expense, remember it's tax-free. Your ESA account, your education savings account, it's no tax deductions when contributing, and various qualified education expenses can be tax-free. What can I use my IRA to invest in? So I always say this, you can invest in anything that the IRS does not prohibit. And the IRS prohibits very few transactions, as I mentioned earlier. So some examples here are going to be private entities, private lending, real estate. I actually started it with private lending. I started out extremely small, and I was able to turn around. I did a secured note, and it was successful. And it once you get a taste of it, and you're around other people who are doing the same thing as you start to learn more strategies where it can get a little bit more complex, but it's less intimidating because you know what you can and can't do, but also you've been able to see your account grow, which is extremely exciting. So real estate could be rentals. You've heard of Airbnbs, foreclosures, tax liens, fix and flips, unimproved land, commercial property, offshore real estate, condos. So private entities, syndication. We have actually a syndication division that's solely dedicated for our syndication clients, which we do have a class on that as well too, if you're interested in learning about how to get started with that, what that looks like. Same thing applies with what you're going to be investing in. So restrictions on IRA, these restrictions are across the board with whatever you're wanting to invest in with your IRA. We get this one a lot. Can I live in a property that my IRA owns? What do we think the answer is? If you said no, you are correct. So IRA holder and family members can't use any of the properties, including both lineal ascendants and descendants. So as we mentioned, your IRA is already tax advantage. You start to get into that black gray area when you're, even if you're looking to vacation in that home, these would be considered prohibited. So the silver lining, you can live in it once you are at least 59 and a half. You can take the IRA asset as a distribution to then own it. So there is, a silver lining there. Now, speaking of investment properties, another question that we often get as well too is, what would I do in the event that I need to go in and I need to fix something? So is sweat equity allowed in an IRA real estate purchase? No. Short answer, no. You can't legally work on IRA owned assets. So IRA specifically says hands off. Any personal sweat equity is prohibited. Certain family members are also disqualified. So both lineal ascendants and descendants extends to any companies or services involved. So we hear of these restrictions here, but what isn't prohibited is using your own creative mind to hire a contractor, negotiate the price that is comfortable for you, your IRA, and have them go in, change that light bulb, repair the wall, whatever that looks like. So tips, use IRS restrictions to build your network. There's plenty of opportunity in real estate. Find something to avoid doing the work yourself. I always say, why would I want to go do the work when I can hire someone to do it. If you have that opportunity readily available to you and you know that that's not prohibited, take advantage of that. Hiring the professional. And again, you can negotiate the price that you like. If there's one party that you just don't feel as if you want to pay that amount, there's so many people out there. And then you might find that one person who can continue to work on other investment properties that you might have. So if you have any questions about how you can go ahead and get started, you can go ahead and scan this QR code here. You get to one of our IRA specialists to find the best account option for you. And you fill out the application form, transfer your funds, or make a contribution, and you'd be able to make your first investment and start self-directing. So next week, we have Smart Money Moves with Jason Shepard, and he'll be able to talk about private lending with an IRA. So if you have yet to be able to see that chart that I was speaking of earlier, next week you'll be able to see what we're talking about as far as investing in a tax-advantaged way and truly what that can get you. But we do have some other exciting news as well too. So join us this February for AltCon. So our registration for this is now open. It's from February 22nd and 23rd. We'll have vendors there to discuss different avenues of what you could be doing with your self-directed IRA, or really give you insight into the alternative investment world. It's at the Marriott Orlando downtown. We'll have speakers. It's going to be a jam-packed, solid 2 days with lots of information where you can gain the knowledge. Stay up to date with us. Scanning this QR code, you'll have a link to all of our social medias, our podcasts, our next class invites, and things of that nature. We're really excited to see you join those. And it is the time of year of giving. If you're not familiar with Share the Love, go ahead and scan this QR code so we can learn more about it. We with Share the Love give the gift of mobility to those who might not necessarily have the means to be able to do that. So check it out and learn more information about it. So while that's up, I'll take some questions via online. What are we looking at for question-wise? I'm open to additional questions where you can learn from us.
Yes, so we had two from online. The first one is, what exit strategies are available for investors using checkbook control in a self-directed IRA?
What was the first one? I'm sorry.
What exit strategies are available for investors using checkbook control in a self-directed IRA?
Exit strategies. Mm-hmm. So when we say exit strategies, do we mean funding a deal with your checkbook control?
I'm not sure. It's not specified. It just says exit strategies are available for investors.
If I'm going to assume we mean exit strategies with our checkbook. So a checkbook control is essentially just having that bank account that has your IRA in it. As far as an exit strategy, are you exiting from that bank account? Or are you exiting from? I would need more context behind that aspect, but I will say, as far as your IRA account goes, it's still going to be your traditional Roth, how you have that set up. But if you do set up checkbook control, the checkbook control just means that you have those funds at the banking institution of your choice, and you have direct access to it. It's essentially, that's all that means. You don't have to have checkbook control set up. It is an option for you. But if we're looking to maybe we might mean that we've set up checkbook control and we want to get out of checkbook control, you can unset up checkbook control if that's what we're asking.
And the other question was, how quickly can transactions be executed with checkbook control compared to traditional methods within a self-directed IRA?
So with NewView, the turnaround time is anywhere from 24 to 48 hours for us to get your funds directed to where you would like those to go. Checkbook control, you have immediate direct access to those funds. So it could be the swipe of a debit card or the sign on your check from that institute. So that's really going to be the main difference. Immediate or 24 to 48 hour turnaround time.
Right. And those are all the questions from online.
Great. Do you have any NewView questions?
Well, if you invest in precious metals, and you gotta take your required minimum distribution, if you have all your money in the precious metals, you'd have to sell some of those precious metals to do it, right?
Essentially, yeah, what I would do is speak with whoever's the facility that is holding those funds and entertain what that looks like in the event when it's time to start taking those required minimum distributions.
Because they would have to sell some so you could take your RMID, or they send you some gold, whatever, anyway.
I haven't had much experience with any clients that I've directly spoken to who invest in precious metals. I think they mostly just have their accounts established with us, and then everything else is with the facility where their metals are stored.
So, in the case of this.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, well, yeah.
So I would need to get in contact with them, they would send you a purchase order or something?
Yes, let's get to that. Are there any other online questions that I might be able to answer?
Nothing from online.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us online. We look forward to seeing you next week. Check out Share the Love. Check out AltCon. We'd love to be